Hello and welcome to Wisdom and Productivity, the podcast of Dr. Efraim Martinez. I am a principal in search of wisdom, and I have found productivity to be a great tool for success. Today, I have the great honor of interviewing Andrea Kalchbrenner, who is a training and development specialist on the Teach Better team. She is passionate about making reading and writing come alive for students. Andrea Kalsbrenner, who are you?
Hi there,
Hello.
Crystal. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here.
I am a teacher, I am a mom, I am a wife, and I'm just so happy to be here.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. Being a mother is such an important thing. What does it mean to you?
It is everything and more. It is tiring, it is rewarding. Um, I knew I always wanted to be a mom. I didn't really know. I guess I shouldn't say the why. I knew why, but then once you become a mom and when you have your own children, it's just a feeling you can't describe until you have your own kids.
Yes, and for me, becoming a parent, it was the first time I understood what love meant when I
Yes.
held my child.
Yes, I used to tell my husband, I love you more than anything. And then once we had kids, I was like, I still do, but I'm sorry. I trump those kids over you any day.
Yeah, it changes things. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So, Andrea, can you walk us through your professional history up to this point?
Sure. So I've been teaching for about 15 years. I started off in secondary education. So my degree is in English education, secondary ed, 6 through 12. I always thought I wanted to be in high school. I taught freshmen my first year teaching in a pretty rural suburb south of Chicago. And after a year, I was like, I don't know if this is necessarily the right spot for me. So I kind of looked around, ended up in seventh grade, junior high, and that's where I have been ever since. I have been in multiple schools, but junior high is my calling.
Wow.
Most people will say like, "Oh, junior high. That's the grade that I try to avoid, especially seventh grade because they're in those puberty years."
Yes.
But I love the awkwardness. Bring it on. Junior high was a great experience for me when I was a child, so I like to kind of make that be a good experience for my students.
Yes. So, peeling out that onion, why ELA and
Sure.
why the junior high?
Well, I've always loved to read. I was the kid growing up who would be reading 4 books at a time. If there was, like the reading log competition in school or over the summer at the library, I was the one, winning the free pizza, the, Pizza Hut, all those special stuff. So I always loved to read. And then when I got older, my eighth grade English teacher was one of my favorite teachers ever. I kept in contact with her all through high school, college, and then when I got my first, teaching jobs. So she had a big influence on me. And yeah, I love to write. And then unfortunately, in my career, I had some English teachers that maybe weren't as passionate about reading and writing as I was. And I knew I wanted to be that opposite for my students because I hate when I hear kids say, I hate reading. I hate books. So I always tell them, no, you don't. You haven't found the right book yet.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I love being
How
able
do
to do
you
that.
like? Were you naturally like I like reading, or something happened that made you become a reader?
Well, I mean, growing up, my mom always read to me. So my mom didn't go to college, so she's high school education. So it's always was so important to her. So she always read to us growing up, and just said like books will change your life. She would always say that, and I am a dancer, so she brought me to many dance classes over my career. She would always be sitting in the parking lot or sitting at one of my shows if she had to wait for us to dress rehearsal, reading her book. So I always saw her reading, so she modeled it for me. And then when I got older, we would share books. She's like, okay, I think you'll like this book. We both liked the murder mysteries, growing up. So we would share books. And I love that it can take you to a different place. So I
Yes.
try to do that for my students. They get like us in junior high, they've got a lot of emotions, right? They're going through a lot of things. So I like finding a book for them. I'm like, okay, you don't like what's happening right now? Let's go to an alternate reality. Let's and take them away in books and have them
That world.
experience, yeah,
Yeah.
something different.
You mentioned about dancing. It's
Yeah.
such a field that that you need to anticipate so many things in order for it. What have you learned about being a dancer?
I mean, it has taught me so much in my life. So I always tell my dance students, you might not grow up to be a professional dancer, but when I'm teaching you, you're going to take with you the rest of your life. You learn how to be dedicated, you learn time management. I danced 20 hours a week growing up, and I had a job of going to school full time. Doing homework. I knew on dance days I had to get my homework done right away. I had to work hard at school. It really helped me when I student taught because I knew how to my presence. I knew how to carry myself. It helps with that confidence.
Yes.
It's such a confidence booster. So yeah, there's so much I have learned from being a dancer. Then I started teaching dance at a young age. That helped me so much with being a classroom teacher, how to talk to parents, how to project myself.
Beautiful. Projection is key. I appreciate that. Um, Andrea, like in Back to the Future, if you could go back in time, what would be one or two advice you would give yourself?
Definitely, I would say one would be you don't have to be the last guy in the parking lot. That doesn't make you any better or less of a teacher. I spent so many extra hours at school because I felt I was always doing something, but I felt like I had to do that. I'm a first year teacher at this school. I can't leave until 6 o'clock at night. It's crazy. So I'd say, yeah, you don't have to do the last car in the parking lot and go with the flow. So I changed jobs on my own between the high school to junior high, my first 2 years teaching. Then that job that I took, I got ripped from. They were, there wasn't enough enrollment,
Happens.
and I was devastated. Well, why did I leave that job? And now look what happened. But it wouldn't have brought me to where I am now. So just going with the flow and knowing that it's not to be perfect. I thought, I'm going to get a teaching job and I'm going to teach there at the same school for 30 years and I'll be that teacher. But it's okay because
Yeah.
it brought me to where I am now.
So life has taken you to teach better.
Yes.
What advice would you have for someone who's considering doing a leap like that?
Sure. I would just say reach out to your professional learning community. Like, just see, that's how I found Teach Better through Twitter. I was searching around looking for educators. I'm like, okay, this company seems interesting. I got to know some of the people on the team, and then now I work for them. So just never rule anything out. Like if you would have told me 15 years ago that I would be on a team like this, I would be doing a podcast with you, I would have presented at this conference, I would say, okay, that's not for me. I'm just a teacher. I'm just a teacher. I teach English. I teach grammar. I teach writing. But just open up your horizons, and you never know what you're capable of doing. You'll constantly surprise yourself as long as you let yourself take that leap.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. So it's awesome that you're a reader because this question is perfect for you. You have to give two gifts. One gift is going to be a fiction book. One gift is going to be a non-fiction book. Why?
This question is so hard because it's so hard to narrow it down. So I constantly cycle through books, and I mostly read, young adult fiction for my students. So one book the past couple of years that I just cherish is Refugee by Alan Gratz. He's a phenomenal author. He has a way of inner working. So a lot of his books have multiple character perspectives. So one chapter will be on one character and a setting. Then the next chapter will be in a different character in a setting. But somehow at the end, they're all interconnected, but you don't know how until the very end. And then he leaves you going, like, what? Oh my gosh. So Refugee, I read it with my International Book Club students because it focuses on three characters from very different cultures and different time periods. But there is a common connection between them. And he just came out with a new book this week. And I Barnes and Nobled it, literally when I was here, to my house, to my nephew's house, and we're going to be reading it together.
Nice.
He's in 7th grade now, so it's kind of cool that
Perfect.
same age as my students, I have my nephew, so we're going to be reading it together.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And what about nonfiction?
So nonfiction. So I don't know if you know Lou Holtz. He's a very famous Notre Dame coach.
Okay.
And I'm not into football at all, but my husband's best friend is, who's also my best friend. And when I was kind of shifting, finding different jobs, he's like, I want you to read this autobiography. So it's Lou Holtz's autobiography. It's called Wins, Losses, and Lessons. And there's just so many quotables. So literally, I love quotes. I would highlight in my book. I typed up a bunch of his quotables, and I had them hanging in my classroom. And they're just good reminders on Yes, he was a coach, so he focused on winning, right? But there's so much more you can learn in the losing.
Yeah.
And so that would be one. So like I was gifted to me, so I try to kind of gift that on to other
Beautiful.
people.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Is there one quote that you can paraphrase?
he talks about, so there's one, he says that you have to always have something to look forward to. So there was this time and he was talking about how his wife was feeling kind of down, and he says, he's like, you have to have something to do. You have to have something you're looking forward to. And I feel like that helps with that mindset of the yet, right? Where sometimes when you're in the middle of something, you're focused on, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Everything's down. But what's going to happen yet? What can you look forward to? And that really always helps me. Like,
Beautiful.
okay, this is hard right now, but what can I look forward to? What's coming in the horizon?
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Before we continue, let's praise the Teach Better community.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. Now let's get back to the episode.
Hey, Andrea. So this is a broad question.
Okay.
Who is or who are your biggest influences?
I'm going to have to go with Teach Better, right?
Okay.
There has been so many opportunities that have opened for me from just this community. So I adore Ray Hewitt, Jeff Gargis, and Chad Ostrowski. They really have influenced me in so many ways to take the position on the team that I have. So professionally, I would say them. Personally, my family. I definitely know. I know we've talked about before, like imposter syndrome. We all get it. My husband is the first person to knock me off of that. We'll say, well, I can't do this, presentation. I'm just a mom or I'm just a teacher. And he's like, stop it. You are an expert at what you do. So personally, my husband pushes me, doesn't know anything about education, but he pushes me to go out there and find those things. Um,
You're very fortunate. Thank you
I
for
am,
sharing
I
that.
am.
So being successful, as you know, includes being on top of our productivity,
Right?
but this can mean different things for different people.
Sure.
What does it mean to you? How do you get organized to get everything done?
Well, it's changed now that I'm a mom, right? So everybody says like, oh, you think you're so busy when you're young and single. And you think you're so busy with one child. And then it's like, oh, two comes. So I am a big promoter of my to-do list. I'm one of those people that even if I already did it, I write it down just so I can scratch it off.
To get the dopamine rush.
I'm like,
This
I did that.
I did it. Yeah.
Google Calendar saves my life, all of the time. And I try to look for times when I know I can get work done. So when I first had the kids and I was trying to still work, I was trying to work when they were awake, but then my attention wasn't fully on work and it wasn't fully on them. So now I try to make that distinction. If I'm going to get work done, it's when they're napping or before they wake up in the morning or after they go to work at night, so I can be fully present in that moment for work or in that moment just with them. Obviously, there's times where things come up and you have to, time manage both. But I try to make my to-do list, and I learned this from Lindsay Titus, who's also here at the conference. My to-do list I love, but they would be so long. And then I would get myself stressed and overwhelmed. So I'll have like a long list, but then I say, what can I get done today? And I'll pick 3 things that I know I need to finish today.
Beautiful.
So it's kind of like, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And what do I need to do? And I pick those 3 things that I need to do. And that really helps me not feel overwhelmed. And it helps me be more productive. Because sometimes you see that list and you end up doing nothing, right? So what do I want to do? And what do I need to do? And I focus on those 3 things that I need to do.
I see. Awesome. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. I seen a newer design of a to-do list
Okay.
to do 4 columns. One that says 5 minutes.
Okay.
Now that says now, and the other one's lengthier.
Sure.
So when it's your time to decide, okay, I only have a few minutes. You don't lose bandwidth by looking at the long list. You
Yeah.
only go to the short
I
list.
will have to try
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
So, oh my God,
Yeah,
together we are
sometimes it is, right?
better.
I'll be like, oh, okay, once
Which
kids up,
one?
what I do, and then I'm doing anything. So I like it.
Beautiful. So this has been such a great conversation. Let me ask you a couple more
Of
things.
course.
Anything that you want to share with us in terms of taking care of your health?
Sure. I mean, as we've been talking about, I feel like luckily the conversation has been changing over time where our mental health is becoming more of a priority, especially in this post-pandemic. I know it's easy to be like, oh, I don't have time to exercise. But I found I have to make the time because I feel better. So I love, being in Chicago. I love summer because we can get outside. But even now that it's getting cooler, we put on a jacket. I bundle the kids up. We go for a walk. Actually, just last week, I was packing actually for this. I was feeling frustrated. There was so much going on. I just stopped everything. We put our coats on, put our hats on. We went to the park. Just that dopamine of being outside. And I was like, okay, we got this. And now when it does get cold and we have to stay inside, I put on since I am a former dancer, I put on one of my, dance workout tapes and I make sure I focus on that. Or even just taking a second and calling a friend and just touching base. But yeah, that taking time for you, even though you're giving yourself to your students or giving yourself to your family, you can't you can't fill from an empty cup. So taking that time to fill your own cup will save you, in the end.
Boom. Great
Right?
conversation, Andrea. Anything, any last thoughts you want to share with the audience of the show?
Just that I am so grateful to be surrounded by so many amazing educators like yourself and administrators who understand what it's like to be a teacher and understand what it's like to be a parent. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be surrounded by people who have the same mindset as I do and are supportive. We're not in competition with each other. I love, being with people in this Teach Better community because we lift each other up. We don't tear each other down.
I echo those feelings. Thank you so much. Such a
Thank
pleasure to have you in the
you.
show. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Wisdom and Productivity, the podcast of Dr. Efraín Martinez.
Chulu.
And I love that production. Chill out.